In October 1965, elements of the U.S. Army's 1st Air Cavalry had repulsed a massive attack by North Vietnamese Army regulars on the American Special Forces camp at Plai My in the central highlands of Vietnam. Now, in mid-November, under orders from the Air Cav commander, Major General Harry Kennard, the 3rd Brigade of the 7th Cavalry, the storied Gary Owen Brigade, had taken up the Air Cav's search and destroy mission to find and finish off what remained of the NVA forces that had attacked Plai My. Colonel Thomas W. Brown, commander of the Gary Owen Brigade, assigned Lieutenant Colonel Harold G. Moore and his 450-man 1st Battalion 7th Cavalry to make an air mobile insertion into the valley of the Ai Drang River. The location was about 20 miles west of Plai My, at the foot of the Chu Pong Mountains, and General Kennard and Colonel Brown thought it was the most likely place to find the communist regulars. On November 14, 1965, after making 2 reconnaissance overflights of the target area and identifying several possible landing zones, LZs, Moore selected LZ X-Ray, a wide, irregularly shaped clearing between 2 dry ravines, overgrown with elephant grass. Just after 10 in the morning, Moore's supporting artillery laid down a heavy barrage in the area of the LZ X-Ray. At 10:48 a.m., Moore's were the first boots on the ground as the 16 Air Cav Hueys delivered 2 platoons of his B Company to the landing zone. As Moore set up his command post, 2 platoons moved into position at the perimeter of the LZ on what would become the assault force's right flank. Half an hour later, choppers brought in a 3rd platoon of B Company and one of A Company. The B platoon immediately moved out to the perimeter, taking up a reconnaissance position to the left of the first 2 platoons. The A Company platoon set up in the center of the LZ to act as security for the landings. "50 minutes later, as 2 more platoons from A Company were shuttled in, the 2 forward platoons of B Company, doing reconnaissance on the right flank of the LZ, encountered elements of the NVA's 7th Battalion 66th Regiments, and the firefight began. Without knowing it, Moore and his men had landed at the doorstep of 2 full communist infantry regiments, the 66th and the 69th. The enemy, through massive reinforcements through the jungle to the other side of the LZ, attempted to flank the badly outnumbered Americans. By 1:30 in the afternoon, the 3 platoons of B Company were battling for their lives in an intense and confusing firefight on the right flank. Moore ordered his reserves into the fight as a flight of choppers brought in 3 platoons from C Company to stop the flanking maneuver and shore up the American left. With fresh troopers on the ground, Moore ordered his units to form 2 cohesive lines along the west and south of the LZ and move into the tree line to extend the perimeter and secure the landing zone for future airlifts. As the firefight escalated, Moore learned that 3rd Platoon, B Company, had pushed too far out into the jungle on the right flank and had been cut off from the rest of the American forces. Surrounded and taking fire from 3 sides, the 29-man unit was holding on for dear life against more than 200 North Vietnamese. As the afternoon wore on, the NVA escalated their attack on the American positions, determined to overrun them and wipe them out. Moore called in heavy air support from B-52 bombers, operating in the two-corps zone to plaster the jungle around his position as the Air Cav's artillery support units continued to pour in fire from nearby landing zone Falcon. But the air and artillery support were not as effective as they might have been. The NVA had learned in their war against the French that if they fought in close proximity to their enemy, a strategy they called clinging to the belt, the enemy could not use its air cover and artillery to full effect without killing great numbers of its own men. The Huey pilots braved withering ground fire to make 3 more lifts, bringing in additional rifle platoons from companies C and D, heavy weapons, and LRP units. At around 5 in the afternoon, the enemies rushed the center of the Cavs line, nearly breaking through, but were driven back by a fresh platoon from Company D. Time and time again, they pressed the outnumbered American troops. As night fell on the Trang Valley, both sides pulled back and prepared to pass an uneasy night. Neither knew what the dawn would bring.